is the moment fans around the world have been waiting for. It's time!
Oh no, it's all gone horribly wrong. There we go, it's working. Like, oh, hey! That was kind of smooth. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm here with the community manager, Eric Musco, to speak about community management, specifically about the PvP community management within Star Wars. This will hopefully be a more loosely formatted interview rather than a strict Q&A session. It's going to be on a strict 1 hour guideline, so we've got 56 minutes left. We're going to plow through this. Just like you said, I said to you earlier, guys, that Nightbot is moderating, so be careful what you're putting in. And also this kind of stuff. But before we start, Eric, I want to just get something out of the water, and I want to just get something out in the open.
Sure.
One of my personal things that I hate in my life is when people are kind of two-faced or false or give contradicting answers. And one thing that you've done recently is really upset me, and I think it highlights everything that's wrong with not just you, but the world. 2 months ago, you said that Godars was your favorite class rep. Last week, you did a complete U-turn on that and said that I was your favorite class rep.
You know,
now, I want to hear what kind of slick PR line you got ready for this, because I gotta be honest with you, man. This is just not how it works in the real world.
You know, it's when someone puts me on the spot like that and they're standing in front of me and they want to know who the best class rep is. It's hard. It's hard to say that it's someone else. It's hard when they're looking you right in the face and they want to know. They want to know that they're the best. And it's hard to lay any disappointment on them by not saying they're the best.
So I spoke with Godars this morning.
Yeah.
He's still adamant that in your heart of hearts, he is the best. So I mean, can we get confirmation on this?
Can I say that you're both my favorite? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah. As long as it's me, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. They're clearly tied for my favorite. That's 100% the answer. Well played. I love the best part. I want you to know, because you weren't at the cantina. My favorite part about when that came up is I think it was unnamed swtor podcast that asked that question during the Q&A, and he asked a two-part question, and he asked me that part first. And the second part was some question. I don't remember what it was at this point, but he was asking Andrew a question. And the best part is Andrew just took the mic before I could really do much. And he was like, he answered the second part. And he's like, oh, what was that first part? I missed it. I wanted to make sure I answered your full question. Like he didn't get the joke of the first part of the question. So he was then trying to answer that question. It was
yeah, I kind of thought people would assume that, get that it was a joke. But apparently, no, people take things super seriously on the internet.
Yeah, they do.
All right, let's move on with this, because I'm aware of time and I've got a lot of stuff to talk to you about.
Sure.
So I broke this into a few different sections, and we'll see how we're going to get through it. So the first thing I wanted to speak to you about was your job specifically, so the community management team, and your personal philosophy on community management.
Sure.
So would you mind giving us a kind of brief outline on what your job duties are?
Sure. So it's always hard to answer this question, and I know that sounds kind of cop-out already to start, but it's tricky because
you get three cop-outs, Eric. You get three cop-outs. Okay. You've used one already.
I feel like I need a whiteboard to check it off. It's tricky because my job it kind of has two components to it, where on one hand, my job, player-facing to you guys, is to represent the studio. So in anything that's public-facing, when I'm answering questions, when I'm doing events, I'm representing BioWare and answering questions and addressing things on their behalf. Yeah. And then my job is 100% 180 when I'm in this building. When I'm in this building, my job is to represent the players as part of my job.
Yeah.
I'll be in design meetings, I'll be in that type of stuff, and representing the player's voice, and then taking things that I can and then projecting things back out to you guys. So I kind of have to go through this flip-floppy pattern of representing the players and representing the studio, depending on which side of the bridge that I'm on. Okay. I mean, certainly the actual specifics of what my job are a little bit more detailed, but that's kind of just like a basic TLDR, I guess.
Okay, so you oversee, from what I understand anyway, the community management team of like Courtney, Pocket, and Taint. Can you give Taint a big hug from me as well, please? Big fan of him.
I will hug Tate when I get back to my desk.
Thank you. What is your philosophy behind how you run the team?
So this is one of these things, and what's going to be interesting is I think this is kind of going to run along some of what your friction is with me and my team specifically, is that when I took over as community manager, if you look back to when I first started, the thing that I really wanted to push on was transparency. I know. So the thing is, about transparency that's a little tricky is that, and it's one of the first things that I asked when I said, I'm going to push really hard to be transparent. I'm going to try to tell you guys as much as I can, as often as I can. But I need a little bit of rope when I do that. Because the problem is that in the game industry, stuff changes constantly. Day to day, everything changes. And I think a lot of times when we say something, anytime we say anything, it's automatically assumed that that's a promise. And unfortunately, that's not usually true. It's usually what our target is. So let's say we say that we want to, we're targeting something for something. And I want to tell you guys that information. As soon as I know that and I'm able to tell you, I want to be able to say, hey guys, look, I know you want an update. Here's the update I can give you. Yeah. The danger in it is that things change. And so when we have situations where stuff changes, it goes on the other foot where I have to rely on that rope that I asked from the players a little bit to not kill me because something changed.
Well, that's the problem with asking for rope, isn't it? Because often that rope will be used to hang yourself with it. Yes. But I mean, again, you deal with the kind of customer services aspect and PR aspect, I would say quite well in terms of deflecting things. So I'm pretty sure if you were actually transparent and said, we're trying to do this rather than kind of semi-promising things, that wouldn't be an issue. But I mean, just to kind of move on from that point, what would you say, because you've said transparency, what other areas would you think are the most important aspects of community management?
I think one of the keys on an MMO specifically is that players feel like, or are in fact, being heard and affecting the development of the game as best as they can. The thing, certainly right, like we can't, anytime a player posts that they want something to change, it's not like that's going to immediately happen. But certainly we need to be very active in how we address the future of the game based on what player feedback looks like. Okay. That I think is really important for my job, is that I make sure that the development team, marketing team, any team that I interact with understands where the players are coming from as best as we can, and then they can make those decisions that are ultimately their roles to make with that information in mind.
So I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, but just as a quick oversight, when you say you're relying on player feedback quite a lot, where are you getting that feedback from?
Everywhere, everywhere that we possibly can. We get it. Yeah, it's just truthfully, we get it from the forums. We get it from social media. We watch streams, YouTubers, fan site articles. Literally every single place that we can possibly get player feedback, we will. Okay. Even in game, not as much necessarily in game, but especially around when there's updates and stuff. One of the things that everyone on my team does is we'll sit on servers, we'll sit on fleets, and we'll look at what people are saying about stuff. Just
I can only apologize if you've ever sat on the Red Eclipse general chat when I've been there. You have my sincere apologies.
That's all right. Because ultimately, one of the things, and we've said this before, like when you look at like the forum population is a vocal minority that fits into a certain group of very hardcore, very invested players. Yeah. Whereas when you look at like social media, there's different groups of players, and so we want to make sure that we get a rounded opinion from all of the mediums that we can.
Okay, well that's understandable. So speaking about your experience with MMOs, because I believe this was your first kind of working role within an MMO.
This is my first job in the game industry.
In the game industry, okay. What other MMOs have you played prior to this? Prior to Star Wars?
I've probably almost all of them. I wish I had brought my keys with me. I still have, to this day, I have a little leather tab that I keep on my keys from Ultima Online. Ultima Online was my first MMO.
Man, I bet you get mad poontang when you flash it out of the bar. Hey babes, look at my Ultima Online.
It just looks like this old leathery flap on my keys. It's really not very impressive. The UO logo is almost completely worn off. But I played Ultima Online. I played Warhammer Online actually really seriously. I loved Warhammer Online.
I like Warhammer Online.
Of course, World of Warcraft. If you play MMOs, you have Dark Age of Camelot, which was obviously spiritual pre-successor to Warhammer.
So in these games, how far did you get progression-wise, and what were your favorite aspects in the game?
So it depends on which game you'd be speaking of.
Give me a highlight. What was if you had to? You say you're bragging, you're there, you flapped out your Ultima flap. And it's like, oh my god, man, you're such a big deal. Like, let me tell you about this one time in this game. What would it be?
I love the context of this. I think it would probably be World of Warcraft in vanilla. I was doing progression rating, Molten Core progression rating through Blackwing Lair. I did
what class?
I played mage.
See, for a second then you had me, and then you just lost me straight away. Real men play melee. That's how it works.
I affectionately tell this story too, because I was the mage class leader back when that was the thing in 40-man raids, and that was back when like you didn't do any damage. All you did was like you're fighting Gehennis and you're just pressing the debuff button, and you don't actually get to throw any frost bolts. It's a very strange time in video games, but Probably that's probably the if you're looking at the most hardcore things that I've done, that would probably be the limit. Is I did a lot of progression then. I also did it at the beginning of Star Wars. While I was working there, I was doing progression in Eternity Vault through Explosive Conflict.
Okay. And what about PvP wise? Anything there?
Nothing that would be of any great impressiveness.
Filthy casual.
Yeah, I love PvP, and I'm like me.
I've watched you play PvP. It doesn't look like you enjoy it.
No.
It looks like you know.
You know what's funny? As of late with Tor, especially knowing that it was going to be building up to like the 12 XP, which is my favorite thing on Earth. I've actually been doing tons of leveling. Like I really haven't done a lot of play at 55 lately. So
if you've done tons of leveling, can we expect the next time you do a stream, you'll actually have a basic understanding of the class that you play in? Is that now confirmed?
It depends on which class I'm playing, because there are some classes that I genuinely have no, like if I play anything Republic, I'll have no idea what I'm doing. I'll have to mess with icons to figure out where they. Well,
all this would be a lot easier if you could just transfer your UI settings and keybinds across with your character. Just throwing that idea out there for you, Eric.
I know. I'm an obsessed. I mean, you can see it. I'm an obsessive keybinder. Like I don't like to click a thing on my keyboard.
Yeah.
And it certainly is one of the quality of life features that we would love to get in at some point. And I wish we had it as well. As a player myself, like the idea that I have to redo those binds every time is not optimal.
Yeah, I refuse to level characters just because I purely can't be bothered to do keybinds on them.
Yeah.
But on this, what I want to talk about here is really from 2.x to where we are now. So from the rise of the cartel expansion, really. So how would you feel that your team has performed throughout the 2.x expansion?
I think with anything else, there's been high points and there's been low points.
Okay, well that is my next question. So maybe we'll just go into that now. What would you say were the highlights and lowlights in your opinion?
So this is going to be real. I guarantee. I know you're going to raise your eyebrows when I tell you what I think the high point is. I actually thought that the class rep system, and I'll tell you what. Let me tell you why. And one of the interesting things is actually that this is one of the things that I don't think we did well on the other side. Is one of the awesome things about the class rep system that I don't think you guys ever got to see. And frankly, just based on your reaction, we clearly never showed you how well it went. Was every time that we got questions that were answered, and look, we had the pay to win, heal to full, or the make them pay. All that stuff happened, which was clearly not the best. But every time that stuff happened, like quite literally, after we would post those answers and the class reps and the people in those forums were going in and making suggestions for stuff that was going to happen, our combat team was quite literally going through those, finding exact suggestions that made sense, and there was a lot of them, and putting them on the schedule to be implemented. And I know it's hard to look at the long game, but if you look at the time we started the class rep system till post 3.0 even, you'll see tons of things that were recommended by the class reps and by the people in those forums that are now in the game, that will be now in the game from either then till now or into 3.0. Players had a huge impact on. So
does this mean that Shadow Step is confirmed for operatives?
I'm not saying anything, but I can tell you that there's a lot of stuff that I think that players will be really happy about that they've been asking for a long time, like defensive cooldowns for Sorks. We tried to point that out in the stream.
Yeah, Eric, no one cares about Sorks, Eric. We only care about operatives, so no one cares about these things.
Can I tell you that watching your stream reminds me how terrible I am at operative in PvP? I just want you to know that, because
it's aim higher than me. Aim higher than me. What about the lowlights then? If I'm interested in this one. If the class rep program was the highlight, what's the lowlight?
Yeah. So this is kind of a tricky thing to answer, because a lot of time. So the thing to understand about what we do, right? So we act as the bridge between the players and the studio.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, like, look, announcement. I think a lot of people will probably point to announcement and go, handled terribly by the community team. And there's probably things that we could have done better. The trick in the announcement, as an example, is that we really wanted to make sure that when we came out and talked about Shadow of Revan, that we came out big, that we had a lot of things to talk about, to tell you about all the awesome stuff that's coming in the expansion. Because personally speaking, like, I think it's an awesome expansion. The downside of that was that I really couldn't tell you anything. And that's a really tricky situation to deal with. It's one of the hardest things ever to deal with as a community manager, is that sometimes there's just nothing for you to say. And it's hard to say nothing for a long time and not be a jerk, right? It's to not look like an idiot, because you're just like...
It depends on how long you go for. I mean, because if you go like 12 months without saying anything, then that's hard. If you're having frequent communication, then it's not so hard. So, I mean, I don't really agree with that point. I think the reason you had such a backlash is that people had been given nothing for so long. They wanted anything. And then you had the teaser, which was a little bit underwhelming followed by another missed promise. It was just kind of a culmination of things.
Sure.
So I get what you're saying, and we're talking about low light, so it kind of makes sense. But I think your excuse is a little bit flattering on yourself.
Totally fair. It was what you're saying is exactly right. Like it was a perfect setup of scenarios, right? Like the video had mixed reviews, and then we had told people that we were targeting to announce in September, and then unfortunately we didn't announce in September, and then we had to put. And granted, the pushback wasn't that far; it only got pushed back a couple days, but ultimately people were expecting it in September, and we didn't deliver on that, and that was very upsetting to a lot of people.
Yeah, we're kind of bleeding into other points here, but seeing as we're on the topic, we may as well go on about it. Why didn't you release any information? Because the thing that's kind of struck me odd about this is I've worked in a similar position to yourself, where you have to kind of release something out there. You made promises, you have to deliver something, and I get why you would want to say we want to do the full package all in one go, because you want maximum, bang for your buck, so to speak. But why you had all of these things listed out? Like, so if you forget the 12 times experience because you said that you're working on something for subscribers, we'll forget that. Even if you just said the 2 new planets are going to be Rikishi and what's it called, Yavin.
Sure.
I'm aware Rikishi is the wrestler. That it's just been called Rikishi from now on. That's how it works. Sure. That would have been something, and that would have been one promise that wasn't failed.
Sure.
So why was the decision made not to do that?
So this is one of those things where, with my job as community manager, I'm the messenger, and so sometimes decisions are sometimes made that I don't win fights on, or and I'm not trying to pass the buck on this, because there's. To your point, I think there's probably something we could have found somewhere where we could have at least said something. Yeah. I still think it probably, even if we had done that, since we wanted to keep all of the details of the expansion until the announcement, I think regardless of what we would have done, it would have been underwhelming, and people wouldn't have been happy. Now, granted, that doesn't mean saying nothing is the correct answer either, but it's just the situation that we ended up.
That leads on quite nicely to my next point on you, because I listen to a lot of the podcasts kind of in the background to get a general feel of what's going on, because often they'll talk about the same things. And one thing that's been recurring this week a lot is pretty much all of the podcasts, really, apart from one I can think of, has been repeating this like a mantra, saying you guys are taking out your frustrations on the wrong people. These guys are just messengers. You shouldn't you shouldn't be responding to them anyway. They're just passing on the message.
Sure.
How do you feel about that? I mean, is that accurate? Or?
No, take it out on me. That's my job.
That's exactly what I said, but I just wanted you to say it so I don't feel guilty anymore.
No, it's cool. 100% true. Like, I mean, I'm literally the guy that, our team stands on that bridge between you guys and the developers, and it's going to sound strange, but people being mad and yelling at us is kind of us being a part of our job. I honestly, I would rather players have animosity towards us because of something that was delivered incorrectly or was not delivered on time than have animosity towards our developers. I think it's a good thing that you guys in general have a good relationship with our development team, everyone on them, and you get excited when you get to hear from them and that type of stuff.
I'll be honest, man, I don't even know who they are. I have no idea who they are.
Fair enough.
So I wouldn't say I have any relationship with them, but they're not particularly visible. So and they're kind of shielded by you guys. So I think if you're going for transparency, I think maybe you might want to work on that a little bit, because I was speaking to people about who the PvP dev was, and no one really knew who it was.
Yeah, and it's fair. And we have some devs that are much more public than others. Like Bruce, obviously, he does a lot of. He's this
Bruce McLean.
That's right. So he puts out some he puts out he was putting out quarterly.
Oh, who's the guy with the beard? Who's the guy with the beard who was in the Cantina tour?
With the last one that we went to?
The one before that, I think it was. The one in Germany. He was there in Germany.
The guy with the beard. No, it wouldn't have been Corey.
He's got a lovely beard. Thick, luxurious. Corey. Like a fine fur rug.
Andrew. It had to be Andrew.
Tell him I like his beard anyway.
I'll pass that on.
So if you could go back in time and change one decision that was made during the whole 2.x expansion, what would it be?
Since Rise till now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. That is a very tricky question to answer. So if I could change one thing, and I'm guessing you're talking about something that I did, something that my team did.
Well, we do both. Something that your team did and something in general.
So something that my team did, I think I would have tried to do a better job of making it understood by the players how much impact the class rep system did have. So funny aside, like literally the only thing that I had thought of to do this, and this sounds stupidly pompous, which is why I would never do it, was practically in patch notes to be like, this change was, impacted completely by the patch. But like, why would we do that? That just sounds really bad.
As a class rep, I would have loved that.
Really? Yeah.
I would have printed that out and put it on my fridge.
You can thank Snape for this change.
Yeah.
We just accredit it to a specific person. So I think I would have done a better job with that specifically. I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to answer the other half, only because. So just to give you an idea of how things are done internally, where I say like I'm the voice for the player. A lot when people hear that, a lot of times they'll say, well, it doesn't make any sense because this thing happened and players were all pissed off about it. Why would you ever do that? Yeah. Ultimately, even in those situations, I don't necessarily know that we're surprised by that. It's more of that when we're having those decisions internally, it's about me being able to tell our team, like understanding our player base to be able to tell the team internally, like, look, if you do this, know that you're going to be ruffling a lot lot and there's going to be a lot of unhappy people, and we need to figure out how we're going to mitigate that.
And they go, who cares?
No, and actually, I actually told this I won't take up a lot of time, but I actually told this story about how we had changed an entire promotion around the idea that we knew that subscribers would be unhappy about a decision that we were going to make. So we changed it completely and actually ended up being a really cool subscriber perk long ago. Mm-hmm. And so it's just one of those things where the team was. So it's kind of hard for me to give a specific example because those are just ongoing conversations that happen.
Okay. So on the topic of Clash Raps, because that was my next one anyway, on the second section, you said that you viewed it as the highlight of the show, of the 2.x expansion in terms of the community management. One thing that I wondered really was why you didn't just let us speak directly to the devs or have some kind of stream or some kind of cast where we could have discussed it. Wouldn't necessarily have to have been broadcast if you weren't confident in it being done. But why was the kind of, we'll put some questions on the forum? Because what I noticed from other ones, and especially from mine, was that the tone and the actual questions weren't really answered.
Sure. So this one's a little bit tricky. So a lot of other games have done something similar. They've done MVP systems or class reps. They've done that type of stuff. Some of them go crazy far, where like the representative would be NDA'd with direct access to everybody. Yeah. Some of them go even more withdrawn than we've done it. What I tried to find was a balance between those two things, and what I was trying to be cautious of is, if you have a rep that's elected, and as a lot of people pointed out, and this was a frustration point for some people, is that it's kind of just a popularity contest.
Oh yeah, 100% was, yeah.
Right, so you're not necessarily going to get the best candidate, you're just going to get a popular candidate. And the concern is if you give someone a lot of access or too much access, you could let them too far in, they almost start to be seen as a point of authority on a specific thing.
Well, and Clash reps, they should be a point of authority, and this is why the whole popularity contest was a kind of fundamental flaw in it. It was, and I'll use the Assassin Clash rep as the best example, because like Wackalord not getting that position was just a travesty. The guy's a genius in the game, but he doesn't have the same appeal as Zeneca.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was never going to win it, and he didn't campaign as hard as she did. However, he could probably balance out all your classes if you spoke to him.
Sure, and it's one of those things where you have to have this balance between those things, because if someone has a authority on the forums, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's pros and cons to it. If someone has authority where they're looked at as someone you can rely on to give very good detailed opinions and great feedback, the pro is that they have that authority to do that, and the con is they have that authority to do that. The problem is if one of those reps, for example, started to go like crazy rogue and started throwing out all kinds of really bad stuff, then we would have to.
He's gone rogue. Pull the plug.
Yeah, we'd have to go in and take action, and then that's not a good thing either. Like it just creates this weird situation. Well, so I was trying to find a balance between the two.
The other issue with this is pretty much all of the Clash Raps who were nominated are no longer Clash Raps because they stopped playing because of how the Clash Rap program was treated.
Sure.
So, I mean, it kind of sums it all up, really. I mean, I wasn't nominated. I just went in and said, I'm doing this now.
I'm going to do it anyway. So, I mean, to your point, I think, should we ever do the class rep thing again? I'm not sure if we would, but should we ever do it again, there would definitely be fundamental changes in it.
So, you're not sure whether you're going to be doing it in the future?
I'm not sure. So, the reason we ultimately...
I'm still calling myself Clash Rep, man. It's done.
By all means, you had it, right?
And it's tattooed on my back.
The reason... I hope you do. Please send us a picture if you do. The reason we stopped it, the class, us communicating about classes in general got a little weird, because we knew that 3.0 was coming, we knew disciplines were coming, BioWare. So it was kind of hard because everything kind of slowed down on classes and class balance and stuff as we were building up to like literally every class changing and having stuff going on with it. And that's kind of one of the reasons we halted on the class reps. I think should we ever do class reps again, it would be in another one of the scenarios like we had earlier this year, or the end of last year, where it was players looking for more communication around class balance and class changes and stuff. And certainly the class reps are a great opportunity for that. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to get feedback from players.
Yeah, I think it's a good concept. It just needs to be executed a little bit better. I'm looking at the clock here, Musco. I got to move you on. You talk far too much.
I do, sorry.
It's all right. Cantina tours. So how successful have these been so far?
I think they're fantastic.
Okay.
I love them.
Okay, one kind of bugbear I've got with this is they must be crazy expensive to do. You got to fly people out there, you got to rent the venue, you got free food and drink for everyone. Sure. There's a lot of cost involved. So why aren't these recorded and broadcast by BioWare? It seems insane to me that you go through all of this cost and expense just for such a tiny fraction of the audience.
So the reason that we don't do that, we had, if you look back early on, we did for two or three of them. We recorded them. We did transcriptions of them. The problem that we have, and funny enough, it's a frustration that a lot of people have with the Cantina Tours, is that we don't really reveal things at Cantina Tours. That's not actually their goal.
Well,
their goal,
actually, based on last week's Cantina, I think that's not necessarily true.
Last week, let's go with the standard.
Was
the rule,
he drunk?
not the exception. No. It was typically when we have Cantina Tours, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, the goal of these 100% is to help humanize us as a studio and as people. A lot of times people just, we're over here at BioWare, we don't have a lot of communication, we don't have a lot of hands-on with people. Being able to stand in front of us and talk to us, it just changes the dynamic of how you look at us as a studio. Okay. It genuinely does. And it gives people their opportunity to talk about their pet issue and get answers to their questions. It's not really about revealing new things. And so part of what we ran into is that all that we would be transcribing is the Q&As, and the Q&As tend to have a lot of the same questions, and it never really reveals new information. So we just have a lot of frustration where people are like, why the hell are you doing this Q&A?
Just to kind of counter-argue that, right? You're there anyway. Video, and it takes like minimal effort. There's obviously an appeal for this because you've got entire podcasts and streams based around the information. So I don't really see how that logically fits together. Because, I mean, I watched a couple of hundred people go into Gaddock's stream on Friday to find out exactly what was said. So there's clearly a demand for it, and it's clearly a small effort. Just do it, Musco. Just do it. Just record it.
Like I said, we've done it before, and it honestly led to more negativity than positivity because we weren't revealing new information, and that was a huge frustration point for people who weren't there.
Okay. Have you ever thought about this? This is a quick aside here about doing a third-party one where, for example, I know there's Tio with the Australian guy. He's quite switched on. If he, for example, rented a place out, you could Skype him and you could have an impromptu one.
So we've been asked about this stuff before. At Dragon Con every year, they've been doing panels where they host a Star Wars: The Old Republic panel. No one from BioWare is even there. They host a panel. And we would love to give them support for that type of thing. The problem with Dragon Con specifically is that it's at the same time as PAX, so we couldn't do that in the past. But absolutely, like if someone wants to do a fan event of some type, or they want to throw a party on our behalf, like any way that we can provide support, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Not at all.
Cool. The next one again, and I'm again looking at the clock here, so I'm going to go through these quite quickly.
Sure.
The official stream. These are all the mediums you've had of communication in 2.x.
Sure.
The last one you did, the 3.0 one, was bang on. It was very good. It was actually a pleasure to listen to. Can you please tell me what you're going to be doing to make sure that in the future we get ones like that and not 45 minutes of you and Taint talking about sandwiches? Because I swear to God, if you talk about sandwiches one more time on that stream, I'm going to fly to Austin and I'm going to force you to eat a sandwich.
That's fair. So this kind of goes back to the question of Cantina Tours, which is a similar thing. Part of us being on the community team is that you as players have to feel some type of something humanizing to us, some kind of relationship to us, whether it's you don't like us, you do like us, something. The idea of the streams is simply for us to do community building with the players, to have a chance for guys to jump on and play with us, for us to just answer questions where we can, even though I know it's not newer stuff. When we can, we are absolutely going to do. So if you look, we used to have Thursday and Friday streams. Thursdays were new content. Friday was just us talking about sandwiches. We're combining those two streams together. So the Friday streams will be a mix of those two things. Maybe the first hour, if we have something new to talk about, will be here's new content, and the second hour will be Tate eating a sandwich. But
please don't talk about sandwiches anymore. It drives me bonkers.
We honestly
I don't get it, because you can sit there and say we're too busy to do this, this, and this, and then you spend an hour talking about sandwiches. It's like contradictory to different things. I understand you're building a relationship with the community, but what part of the community are you appealing to? The guys who like work for Subway or something? It's come on now, come on, son.
Sure.
Please just keep it like the ones you did last time. The one you did last time was spot on. Just do them like that. That's what everyone loved it. Everyone loved it. I haven't used a bad word.
you're going to see a lot. I like that. You haven't cursed yet, I don't think. I curse a lot myself, so I've been trying. It's one of the things when I'm on audio.
I'm doing my best not to swear.
Okay. No, it's one of those things where now that we have a lot of information to talk about leading up to 3.0. Now, I should tell you, just let people know, our plan is that most of the class-specific stuff is going to come in November, not October. But it is going to be our goal to highlight new stuff or stuff that is relevant or important to Shadow of Revan as we go from now to 3.0.
Are you doing one this Friday?
We are doing one this Friday, yes.
Operatives this Friday?
I actually think that what we are going to do is highlight Forged Alliances from now through November. I know, good to your previous point, but
just tell us we got Shadow Staff. That's all we want to hear.
I will.
We haven't got it. Look me in the eye, Musco. Have we got Shadow Staff? Just have we got it?
I can't say what
that's a no. Confirmed. We're not having Shadow Staff. Get there. That's one of my desk now. Forum activity. So you've said on multiple occasions that you read all of the threads on the forums. Now, that's clearly hyperbole because there's too much on there to do that. But if you read even a small fraction, why are there virtually no replies to legitimate concerns? Is it a case that you're just very reticent to reply to these posts because of previous communications, like the whole no PvP post and the heal to full stuff, or is it just?
It's one of those weird situations where, and this is something that I debate with people a lot. To be frank, is a lot of times what we have is a situation where at most what I can offer in a thread if I respond in it is yes, I've read it and yes, I'm aware of it. And certainly I could do that a lot because we do read the forum. If you look, Tate actually does that quite a bit, especially with bugs and issues.
Tate is permanently on the forums, but no one else is. Yeah,
Tate's great about that. For me, specifically with like dealing with issues and stuff, it's tricky because when I'm acknowledging them, it indicates that there's going to be action that's immediately going to follow.
It doesn't, though, because you acknowledge it in the way that action isn't immediately going to follow. I mean, come on, this is rudimentary stuff. I have read your concern, we'll take it under advisement, expect a response in X amount of time. That's not incredibly hard. That's like basic.
Sure. The downside of it becomes, let's say, I'll get back to you guys in, within a couple weeks. Weeks, I say, still don't have an answer, going to be a couple weeks. Then at that point, now it starts to get a little dicey because maybe the answer is something's going to be addressed. It's going to take a long time to be addressed, and it creates a lot. Now, granted, in a perfect world, we would address it.
But how is that worse than nothing?
That's true. It's a weird situation that, and this is where I say that I debate it because the question is which one of those is worse.
Well, I question the validity of all of this stuff, to be honest with you, because what's said often doesn't mash up with what's done. A lot of the time. I watched one of the Cantina tours, I think it was the Germany one, and the beardy guy there said he made a huge deal about how they rely passionately on information from the forums as their main source of information for balancing, which in and itself is incredibly worrying. But specifically on the PTS forums, what needs to change? Now, this, I had alarm bells going off in my head for this one because I've seen multiple posts on PTS forums that I completely ignored. I've seen changes to classes where they haven't even opened up a tab to open a discussion on the PTS forums.
Sure.
And it's things like this which makes us doubt you as a company and as a dev team and as a community management team. When you say that you're doing something and then you behave in the opposite way.
Sure. And just to answer as one of the examples you gave, like PTS, right? We certainly have situations where something's been reported on PTS and then it's not fixed by the time it goes live. And it's one of those things, it depends on the severity of the issue. If it's an issue, but it's not a game-breaking issue, and what we've worked through on PTS and getting addressed is a lot of those game-breaking issues, it is entirely possible that something that was a bug that was on PTS could go live. And that's where it creates this weird situation where it's like we are reading the threads, we're passing on the feedback. It's just that we weren't able to get to that issue before it needed to go live, and then we have the discussion of do we delay the update or do we just release it with that bug? And in those scenarios, the decision was made release with that bug, and then we'll address it, after that.
Okay.
And now to your point, maybe the answer is maybe what I should be doing, or maybe what we should make a better effort to do is to say that, to come out and say, hey, you're going to notice this wasn't fixed, but it is on the list to be fixed.
Well, with every greatest amount of respect to you, Eric, I mean, you can't come on and say that the first thing I want to do is transparency, and then counter that with, I don't want to say anything in case we give false timescales, and maybe we should do this, and maybe we should talk to people. I mean, that transparency is exactly that. It's the opposite of what you're doing.
Right. So, well, and that's where I say it's one of those things where it's giving real. Look at this is a very extreme example, but look at the announcement. We said we were targeting September. We didn't deliver in September. Totally our fault. It got pushed, and everyone understandably, because of the situation that was there, was extremely unhappy. But it's one of those situations where if we have a lot of scenarios that pile up, to counter that, if we have a lot of times where I'm saying we're going to address this, and I'm very, very transparent with everything, and a lot of those keep changing, it's also going to shoot my word also, because then things keep changing and it looks like I'm lying constantly, but all I'm doing is just giving constant updates.
I don't necessarily agree with that again. I mean, I think you can quite easily balance those two things out. I don't even think that's difficult. But we'll move on from this one.
Sure.
I think we got this hour thing is killing me here. Support for fan sites and streamers. I've spoken to a lot of the fan sites and streamers in some capacity, and I would say the vast majority is very unhappy with the level of official support.
Sure.
This kind of culminated recently with the whole minor fiasco, which, do you think that's kind of almost inevitable, that because there's such a lack of official communication and support, people will turn to third-party sources for information?
I think that any MMO that exists is always going to have things like data mining and things like that stuff. And I mean, look, I came from a fan site myself before I was even here. I know I understand completely how it works. If there's something in the community to talk about, whether it's official or unofficial, the source almost doesn't matter. You're going to talk about it. That's just how it works. That's not something that we can control. And to be fair, like to the minor thing, we were never trying to control the information either. It's not like we asked a fan site that had covered, something that was data mined to take it down. We never asked that. We just simply said that we can't draw attention to it.
Yeah, no, I agree with your stance on that one, but I also agree with their stance to carry on doing it, because if there's no communication coming from you, they've got to get information from somewhere.
Sure. No, we completely understand. If there's something to cover, they're going to cover it regardless of source.
I got a few things. I'm going to have to skip quite a few points here just because of the time constraints. But one thing I really wanted to bring up was an interview that was done by Redner from, I think he's on OtiniCast. I might have that wrong. I think it's OtiniCast. What's the one with T on it? Sure, that's OtiniCast.
That's OtiniCast, yeah.
Cool. He did an interview with Dave Dorman, who is the one of the officially endorsed Star Wars artists. He's done loads of fairly legendary Star Wars artwork. And I was quite surprised there was no coverage for this anywhere on the official website. Was there any reason for this, or did you just not know? What was the...
So this goes back to, and I'm sure this was probably on one of the points you wanted to touch, so I'll round about to it, which is the fan site agreement. So the fan site agreement is an interesting thing, and I know a lot of people got very worked up about the whole context of what exactly is covered in the fan site agreement. The real simple version of the fan site agreement is that if you have ads or if you have any of that type of stuff that could draw revenue, whether it's to you or to another company, our official support only meaning sending something out on social media, our social media, or sending something out on our website just can't happen. That we can't do.
But you do that now, though. You do that now to people who do get financial support from it.
Such as?
You had Chill from OtiniCast on your website.
Right. So there are scenarios where we can do it, but there's a couple of steps that we have to do on our side as part of our process to make that happen.
There's other examples of this as well. I mean, you've had other podcasts, you've flown them into Austin so they can have interviews with people. There's been streamers have had their streams retweeted by members of the BioWare team.
So that's different. Just to be clear, I mean specifically on the Star Wars: The Old Republic BioWare account. Something that we do, like if I could have tweeted, I didn't because I forgot, but and I will when you highlight it. I will send out a link to this interview, and I can totally do that. That's outside of the rules of what official support literally only means from the official account.
Okay, so why isn't it done then? If there's obviously this loophole here, why isn't it being done?
That loophole is a very extensive process on our side.
Okay.
And it gets complicated because it's legally stuff. What I can tell you, this is something that we've been working on for a long time to try to address, because to your point, not being able to just be Snape is live, we should tweet out a stream, right? That seems very simple, and I want it to be that simple.
Oh, don't do me, man, I'm terrible. You don't want to endorse me. I swear far too much. I'm not the guy you want to be doing it with.
Fair enough. Actually, that's in the fan site agreement too. But I do wish that we could do more to support fan sites, and we're actually working on a lot of the stuff. It's one of the reasons that I did bring, that we brought Hillary onto the team is, to be perfectly honest, our fan site support was terrible, and that's entirely my fault. It was very bad for a long time, and it's one of the reasons that we brought Hillary's role onto the team was specifically to help manage that, because it wasn't being done very well.
Just as a freebie here, right? I've got your Season 3 reward for you right here.
Okay.
Yeah, pay attention to this. Write it down.
Okay.
Dave Dorman said that he would love to do some commissioned artwork for players.
Interesting.
All right, he said that on the interview, which you should watch because the guy is a legend. He's a treat.
Oh, I absolutely did.
Why didn't he do it for Season 3? The top one player from each advanced class gets put into one big massive portrait, and then you can send copies out to all of them. Get Dave Dorman to do it. It's good publicity for him. People will then buy his product, and people will. I would even queue for solo ranked, and I hate solo ranked. So yeah, there you go. It's a free one for you. Guild contacts. Yeah, some people said that they were really annoyed by the whole guild contacts thing. It hasn't been used for anything. It seems that at this point in time, the community as a whole is bending over backwards to try and generate buzz and hype in spite of the CM team rather than being assisted by it. Is this what you envisioned all along? What's broken down here?
No. So by guild contacts, you mean like people reaching out to Hillary? Okay, so that wasn't necessarily intended, and maybe this should have been explained better, but this wasn't necessarily intended as like something that we were going to send out constant updates to those guys, because simply we don't want to spam you with emails either, especially since most of the updates we would send would be just tying into stuff that we've already announced. What that was for is things like gathering information about your guild, what types of guild that you have. So when we have situations like closed 3.0 PTS testing, we can look through our guild contacts and find guilds that make sense for what we're trying to target for testing.
This is the part I wanted to spend most time on, but unfortunately it doesn't. I'm going to have to blow through this quite quickly. This is the PvP community. So at the moment, they're either toxic children or they're justifiably angry consumers, depending on how you want to look at it.
Sure.
This was inevitable to come up because you're speaking to me, and I can't go a day without talking about 8-man being removed from the game.
Of course.
I understand that you removed it as a queuing option to drive people into Arena to try and bump up those numbers, and that makes sense if you look at it in a linear point of view. But did you not forecast how it would completely decimate the PvP community?
Yeah, so this is one of those examples where when we had these conversations happened for a long time, covering both sides of the coin.
I'm glad you said that, because that ties nicely into my next point.
Yeah, quite literally every day these meetings were happening, talking about is this the right move? Because the one thing we don't ever want to do unless we absolutely have to is take content out of the game. It's one thing that we would do very, very sensitively and to make sure we're very careful about. And this is one that we knew. We knew this was something that for the people who played ranked 8v8, which was a very small group of people, for those people, though, they love it. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I loved it. I didn't play it, but I watched streams every day. I loved ranked Warzones. They're super fun to watch. But the decision was made with everything weighed in, including how players would react, understanding they were going to be upset about it, that it was better for the health of PvP long term, knowing that there would
clearly wasn't, though, was it? Clearly wasn't.
Well, the question is, though, if we had ranked 8v8 right now, would the queues that we have now, unless we had a substantial boost of players in queue, which based on how many people played ranked 8v8 before wouldn't have happened. Now, granted, we can't predict the future, but we can only go based on the data that we have. Unless we had a lot more players queuing for PvP, the problem is that now there would have been, for every one ranked Warzone that pops, 2 arenas don't pop, and vice versa for every one arena that pops. Yeah, well, I mean,
there's two really clear arguments for this. First of all, Nightmare mode content is consumed at the same amount of rate as the 8-man ranked. We did a count of all the teams on both sides, which I know isn't the most accurate way, but it's close enough for us. And also, there's no 4-man ranked pop in now because all of the players left. This is the bit that I don't think that you understand. We had a guild summit for all the guilds in the EU, all the PvP guilds in the EU. Around about 50 guilds transferred to Toffen to try and circumnavigate the lack of cross-server. And don't worry, we're going to get the cross-server in a second. We all moved there at great expense. Some people moved 8 characters over.
Sure, I remember when this.
So you're looking at thousands of people transferring across to try and generate this. Now, what happened was you took that game out. You were saying, hey guys, 2.4 is the PvP patch. 2.4, we're going to make everything good. We're going to make everything right.
Sure.
So everyone was like, okay, we're going to move over to the server. We're going to move my alts over. This is great. And it was the golden age of PvP. There were pops on a frequent basis. Then you took it out of the game. And overnight, I saw every single guild. The only one I can think of that's still active is Drama. And even they essentially a skeleton crew now. They died within the space of a month. Every single one of them died without failing. So how is that helping the PvP community? How are people going to queue for 4-man arena when there is no PvP community?
So I don't know that I can necessarily directly answer that question. Only because it's a very loaded question and it's tricky because the problem that we have is that
just say it was the wrong decision, man. Just own the mistake and people will forgive you. I mean, this is how transparency works.
No, but the thing is, we don't know that it was the wrong decision. So, like, for the example, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Like, if you look at the example that you just gave, knowing that the amount of people that we had was a small but very active group of players. The thing is that it's completely possible, and based on what you're saying, that we lost those players who played ranked 8v8. But the thing is, you were in that circle of people, so your whole circle was very impacted by this change, but that circle was not huge circle.
I'm objective enough to be able to see what happened overall, and now when we have no 4-man arena as well, because of exactly the same thing.
Right. So one of the interesting things, and this is certainly one of the counterpoints, a counterpoint for you, is that the one conversation that people have brought up around ranked, which is completely fair, is that when we introduced ranked, we offered a lot of support for ranked. We offered solo, we offered rewards for it, we offered a lot of things for arenas that we never did for war zones. And so certainly our numbers are a little skewed in that regard, just because the support is there that's greater for ranked.
If you count solo ranked as ranked, then your numbers are completely screwed. They're completely screwed. Because solo ranked isn't ranked for a start. It's the same as me queuing for regs. There's no difference. It's one's regs, one's arena only. The mechanics behind it are essentially the same, other than group composition. So it's not ranked PvP. The fact that you include those in your ranked numbers is just an intentional way to boost them up into a higher rate. If you did an analysis of 4-man ranked versus 8-man ranked, there is no 4-man ranked. There never has been 4-man ranked. It's never been a successful game mode, and that's why you include solo ranked.
I mean, we definitely monitor all of our queues. We don't just lump arenas as one specific thing. I mean, we look at data across all of it and how it sits across the board.
Yeah.
But I mean, to your ultimate question is, will we ever bring 8v8 back? I don't know. I don't know of any plans to bring it back. But if our situation, I know you're going to go to cross server right after this. Should our situation ever allow us, so that we have confidence that we're not going to very greatly damage the health of PvP queues, understanding that they're not the best now and that they need improvement, then we could certainly have that conversation then. Okay.
So one thing I wanted to touch on really quickly here is, after that 8-man was taken out of the game, and knowing that people had transferred over and paid money to get it, why was no free transfer back to the home servers offered? Because you would have been aware that this change was coming. You even just said that you were in discussions for months prior to this.
Sure.
So knowing that people are moving, why wasn't there anything offered as kind of conversation?
So that I don't know. The only thing I can say is that the conversation about what to do was happening, but the actual decision wasn't made. I mean, basically, you guys knew as soon as the decision was made. That decision went right up to the end, as there was lots of conversation on both sides. The
question is, why was there no refund?
Unfortunately, that I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't.
So here's something which Goricki, who is the best hairdresser EU, asked you. 8-man coming back into the game and cross server is something which has been said is at a large cost. The suggestion he had is that we crowdsource that cost. If someone started a Kickstarter and we had you could even host it yourself, I mean, to make it more legitimate, would that be something viable, or is that something you could look into? Because people will pay money for it.
So I can look into it. My guess is the answer is probably not. And the reason is, although when we say cost, you have to understand how many things go into cost. So cost isn't just amount of dollars, it's amount of time. So when we say if we want to implement a new feature, that means designers, art engineers, server engineers, like everyone across multiple teams has to get involved. And again, I want to reiterate, that doesn't mean we're never going to do it or not going to do it. It just means that it has a huge impact on the team. So it's not just necessarily a matter of...
Well, you could just do queue as group. I mean, that would solve a lot of problems. Lump everything in together, queue as group. That would solve pretty much all the problems, actually, because then you'd have 4-man groups queuing up together, which would get a mixture of arena and a mixture of normal 8-man war zones. And then you wouldn't get the whole pre-mades are crying pugs are crying because pre-mades are killing them, and vice versa. Sure. So if I was looking for a quick, easy win, go for that one. There's two other things I really want to get in here, and there's 9 minutes left, so I'm going to have to blast this pretty quickly.
Sure.
One thing which really disturbed me to the core of my being, Eric, the core of my being, I had to go and sit in the shower afterwards. I was so disturbed. One of the devs, I think it was Beardy Guy again, said PvPers just want to kill red. It was the guy who was developing the PvP game modes, and then you then said PvPers don't want cross-server, they just want to have pops. Now, do you actually believe this, or are you completely out of touch with what the community actually wants? Because to give you an analogy here, this is like me saying to a Nightmare mode guild, you don't want to do hard content, you just want to go and kill mobs, so here's a room full of level 20 mobs, they all drop good gear, so crack on.
So I think what I mean by that statement is that I think a lot of the frustration from PvPers, and please correct me if I'm wrong, as you are definitely one of them, is that right now ranked queues are definitely not popping anywhere near where anyone would like them to be. You want to be able to have a good diverse player base to play against. You want to be able to make sure you're against players of equal skill, and you want to have queues that pop quickly and frequently. Cross server sounds like it solves all those problems, which I think is the crux of why I think people want cross server. That's why I said that statement is that What they want is the solutions that cross-server brings. It isn't necessarily that you want cross-server. You just want what cross-server will bring to the game.
Okay, so no, we do want cross-server. Give you the reason behind this. If you want to have a truly competitive environment, you want to play against the best teams in the world. Now, if those teams aren't on your server and you don't have crossover, you can't do it. So, that's the fundamental reason behind it, and that's why I read this and thought, oh my god, please don't tell me this is how you develop in future PvP content. Because if this is the mentality you're using, then you may as well just put us in a room full of NPCs and call it PvP.
Sure, and that's fair. You want to play the best players in the world, and so being able to play.
Oh, I don't, mate. I'll take the second or third best. I don't want to play the best. They'll kill me. They'll poop on me.
Fair enough. I'll take 3,000th best.
So one thing which again was said on the Friday leaked thing is that something is coming in, and it's better than cross server. It's not cross server, it's not mega servers, it's not server merges, but it's better than cross server, and don't worry about it. Please tell me you have something good, because if you don't, that is the dumbest thing anyone's ever said.
So I don't know exactly what Bruce said. Or what was said by whoever was said at the Cantina.
Was he drunk?
The thing to understand about Cantina tours is that they're meant to be very casual. So we're going to say a whole bunch of things that are like loose confirmations and that type of stuff of things that we're working on. Here's what I can tell you. Regardless of naming cross, mega, merges, any of that stuff, we know that there's issues with queues. We have very, very big plans that we are working on to address those queuing issues, to make sure that queues are in a good place and players have better opportunities to play against each other. That's what I will say.
No hints as to what it is?
I can't. No, unfortunately I can't.
Let me ask you this question instead. When you release the information, do you think I will be happy with it?
That's a good question.
That's a no. Because otherwise you would have said yes.
Genuinely, I actually don't know. I think you will probably be somewhere between a yes and a no. But I don't think you're going to do backflips, but I think you're going to be happy.
I'll get back to you on that one then.
Yeah.
One thing...
Certainly something that's an improvement will make you happy.
Really raised to me as a PvP community concern, which should be addressed by you, a team, really, is the solo ranked trolling and the solo ranked kind of gaming the system. Now, I think that the disciplines will solve a lot of these things with the skank healing and skank tanking. But things like Q-syncing, shout out to Val, best Q-sync at EU, people intentionally losing, win trading. There's no entry boundaries. Like, for example, I've just leveled up a bunch of tunes. I can't even buy ranked comms until I'm Valor 40. Can I queue for YOLO ranked? Yes, I can. How does that make any sense? I don't think Valor is the best benchmark. I think expertise would be, but that's beside the point. Yes. You had solo ranked trolls. The specific example is a guy called Kill on the Bastion, I believe. There were videos posted of him just using consumption, just dying over and over again. The forum posts were removed, and he's still in the game. There's people with advanced classes, no advanced classes queuing. And this is, bear in mind, though, Eric. This is what you classify. This game mode right now is what you classify as end game PvP.
So this is something we've raised this a lot. This is something that we certainly have seen both on the CS side plus on the community side that we have raised to the teams internally to figure out a way to address. Here's the challenge that we have from our side is that if someone wants to be a jerk and they want to troll in PvP, they can. People will always find a way to do it. The question is what we can do to make sure that we minimize the opportunities for them to do it. And we agree with you entirely. There definitely are not enough systems in place to make sure that people can't do it.
Well, there's none, so I mean...
You basically have to be at the level cap, and you have to be able to press 2 buttons and you can do it. And so it's definitely something we're aware of. And it's definitely something that the guys on our team talk about, trying to get solutions in place. We don't want to put, half-assed solutions in place, because those don't fix problems either. So we want to try to come up with something that will do a pretty solid job of solving the problem. I can tell you that we're definitely aware of it, and we're definitely not. It's not something we want to happen. Because to your point, this is the end game PvP. We don't want that to be.
Would it be difficult to put in place? You must have over 1950 expertise. Is that a hard thing to do?
I don't know. I'm not a developer, so I honestly I don't know what's hard or easy. So
if you're having these conversations, though, surely it must have been brought up as having some kind of expertise requirement. Sure. If it hasn't, that's even more alarming.
Yeah, the conversations have absolutely happened about what is the best approach to getting people in. But at the same rate, it goes on one of these things, right? So you always have to look at both sides. If we make it that you have to have a certain level of expertise, that means you exclude anyone who doesn't have that expertise from playing PvP. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
That means less people can queue.
Yeah, but I can't do Nightmare Mode at the moment because I don't have the gear for it. So why can't you give me a free 180 set of PvE gear?
I understand that. I mean, to be fair, you could try to do nightmares, it's just not going to work.
No, but and that's the thing. I mean, and the difference is if I queue up for a group finder and I get paid up into that mode, they'll just vote kick me. Can I do that in PvP? No, I can't. And they can put me on ignore so that I don't even get group with them again. Can they do that in PvP? No, you can't. Yeah. And I understand you're trying to force the queues, but what you're doing here is a classic error in logic where you're trying to solve the symptoms rather than addressing the problems. And this is something which has been systemic since the kind of, since 8-man days, because people wanted to play 8-man. They wanted to. The uptake was low because, I tell you, from on the Red Eclipse, we had Nostradamus, who were probably the best team in the world, Reality Check. Clearly the best team in the world behind Nostrum, maybe. And they were just killing everyone. So people stopped queuing. When we moved to Toffen, about 10 new teams appeared overnight. People clearly wanted to do it. It was a matchmaking issue and it was a balance issue. People got bored of, like Guriki, for example, using macros to pick up the ball in Hubball. I mean, that wasn't addressed, and that kind of made that game mode a little bit unpleasant. But rather than addressing the issue and driving people in there, you said, okay, guys, we're going to force you into a game mode which now has half the players, so you will have twice as many teams. That doesn't make any sense. You address the issue, not the symptoms.
Sure.
So can we expect that in the future, or is it just going to be more of the same?
All I can say of what I know is that those guys we are actively, we pass it on to them all the time. They know it's an issue, and I know it's something they're working on addressing. Okay.
There's 2 minutes left now, 1 minute left, so I'll just kind of wrap this up. Thank you for coming on. It is appreciated. It is nice to have some kind of open communication. I promise not to spam up your stream so much in the future. If I'm drunk, all bets are off, so I'm really sorry about that.
I appreciate it. No, but I really wanted to come on because I know that you specifically, and I know our PvP community has a lot of frustrations with me and with our team, and I definitely want to...
The only thing I wanted you to take away from this, Eric, right, is no one wants you to fail. No one wants you to be bad. No one wants you to fuck things up. Everyone wants you to succeed as much as they possibly can. You, Taint, Pocket, Courtney, everyone, especially Taint because he's my favorite. But everyone wants them to succeed. Sure. And we say these things and we get ignored, and we say these things and we get ignored. And I think the best analogy I can give you, it is we are like angry children at this point. We've been asking our parents for food for years, and we've got nothing back. So all we can do now is shit our pants and cry.
Sure. And I think ultimately my biggest takeaway is, and it goes back to the debate that I've had with many people, is that you guys kind of, I shouldn't say you're not completely being ignored, because I know you're not seeing changes as fast as you would like them, but we definitely are seeing your feedback and we're passing it on. But I don't think we are letting you guys know that your information is being heard, and that's something that needs to be improved upon.
Be visible, Eric. Be visible. Come on, you're a handsome guy. You got the 90s soul patch. You got the headset. It's all good. You can rock it out.
I appreciate that.
On your stream as well on Friday, can you please show us your leather flap? Because I don't believe that you've got one.
Oh yeah, I will.
I want to see a leathery flap.
I will.
No sandwich conversation.
As soon as I go back to my desk, I will take a picture of it and I'll tweet it out so you can see my leather flap. And as you said, I pick up all the girls at the bar with.
I'm quite surprised.
I like that as a concept.
I'm really surprised no one in my chat has asked to see Pocket's leather flaps because she played the same game. Yeah. See how I recovered that? You thought I was going one way and then I went the other way.
I saw that. That was good. That was well played.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock, so thank you for your time. I won't overrun because I'm very punctual.
I appreciate that. And again, I genuinely want to thank you for having me. I think that, like I said, I know there's a lot of frustrations, and so any opportunity that we can have to come out and kind of address them.
Can we do a quick little bonding thing? We do a Y5?
A Y5? Yeah.
Yeah, just put your hand up at the webcam.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Nice.
I like it. And just so you know, I am actually trying to do a cantina in the UK next year. So
if you come to the cantina in the UK, Eric, there's quite a good chance I'll get drunk and punch you and hit you. Just saying that already.
Dude, I've had people get drunk and lick my face. Cantinas get weird, man. So.
Oh, did you tell you what? I asked that guy, right? He said he wouldn't ask the question about the class rep, so I wanted him to hug you and say, "Stay golden, pony boy." But you wouldn't do it, so I'll do that instead.
That's perfect.
All right, man. You get on. Go and do some work, Eric. I want to see some visibility on the forums. Thanks. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Let me just sort my webcam out. Let me see if this works because I'm not sure how this is going to go. Yeah, I'll check the Musco image up. We'll do this Musco because he was. That's a happy Musco. Or should we do the happy Musco or the cool Musco? We'll do cool Musco. There's cool Musco instead. Yeah, I'm really sorry, guys. There was a lot more stuff that I wanted to go through. I really got my pacing wrong at the beginning. I spent too much time on the first section when I wanted to go more into the the PvP community section, specifically with the 8-man ranked and with solo ranked being a bit of a joke game mode, etc. But time was an issue. I'm relatively happy with how it goes. I think we got some answers on it. Basically, what I took away from that, pardon me, I'm so burpy. What I took away from that is don't get your hopes up for crossover. Don't get your hopes up for any kind of real competitive endgame PvP. If you want to hate on them because it's their fucking job. So just do it. And really, as long as he listens to people and actually, is more visible, is more transparent, and is all these things that he said he wanted to be at the start, I think we'll all be happy. And ultimately, these people aren't bad human beings. They're all pretty good. They're all good people at the end of the day, especially Taint. Love you, Taint. So I think if we give them a chance to succeed and we let them succeed, we should reward them and tell them they're doing a good job. But also, if they're not, we should tell them as well. So all I can really advise you is, if they are doing things that you like, tell them that you like them as much as when you do things that you don't like. Because everyone is first to come forward and say, oh, that's fucking shit. Yeah, myself included. But also when they do something good, be sure to do it as well. I really genuinely hope that there is improvements in the community management in 3.0 going forward. Honestly, I'm not optimistic about it. I don't think anything is going to, I honestly don't think anything's going to change. But we'll have to wait and see. You have to give people the opportunity the chance to succeed before you had to poop on them. That is going to be me. I don't know. Shall I do some PvP? I don't know, man. It's 8 o'clock. It's late. I don't know. Oh, fuck it. I'll do a couple of games. Let me just log in. I'm going to stop the stream at this point and restart it just so that there's a nice cut off.